Subwoofers and the IRS. This question comes to us from Cory in Evanston, Indiana. I always think of Evanston as in Illinois. I suppose there's a lot of Oh, no, I'm sorry. Cory, I have done you wrong. It's Evansville. See, people get mad at me. I sit here and I stare at that. I have my glasses right next to me and I never put them on. I'm trying. Anyway, Cory writes, "Hey, Paul, I was in Boulder last September. Thank you. I know you did the tour and we appreciate you. And if you want to come, please let us know or just show up. It's just fine." A fella just let us know in advance that he was going to celebrate his birthday here. Isn't that nice? Came all the way from Arizona celebrating his birthday. And if we'd had a little bit more time, we would have got him a cake. And so we really do appreciate you guys showing up. So anyway, his friends and he stopped by to take a tour and hear the legendary IRSV. Well, I was impressed with the clarity and imaging. I felt the bass left something to be desired. They sounded great, don't get me wrong, but I thought the 12-inch woofers that were there would have more attack in the bottom end. You always preach about how important subs are for a stereo system, but don't have any paired with the IRSs. What gives? Okay, Cory. Well, first off, yes, I always preach separate subwoofers if the system does not have one built in. So, most speaker systems, full range speaker systems, don't really go down to subterranean depths. Some systems, like our upcoming speakers, will have built-in subwoofer systems that'll take you down to 17, 20 hertz, lower than you can hear, okay? In those cases, you don't need a separate subwoofer. In this case, you don't need a separate subwoofer. Why? Well, take a look, right? 12-inch woofers, 6 per side with 4,000 watts per channel. So what was Cory referring to when he said he didn't hear much slam, when he didn't hear much bass? I would suggest to Cory that these were not the problem, okay? So I can assure you that 8,000 watts driving 12-inch subwoofers is going to be more bass than anyone can possibly even handle. I've heard these things when we do sweeps in here. It's almost nauseating, the amount of, just in your gut, just around the whole room, it's insane. So it's not a problem of not having a subwoofer. It's not a problem of having too little in the way of bass. Typically for a room, one well-powered 12-inch woofer per side is more than most people need or would ever complain about, right? These are high efficiency, long throw. These are, by the way, not to get off, but I do. As you notice, if you remember from the older ones, we've replaced the Infinity woofers, the old stamped frame, cheap woofers that used to be in here, and in fact what Cory listened to. And because they were struggling. They're nearly 40 years old, and they were struggling. They had, the surrounds had been replaced, but they were always compromised in that they weren't very long throw woofers. They had 1,500 watts, but frankly speaking, they could have used more. And they were relatively high distortion except for the servo. And the servo system on the IRSV had been really getting wonky. Again, 40 years old. So Chris Brunhaver, our speaker guru, and I, and Darren Myers, and Bob Stadther, our chief engineer, we all got together and we redesigned the woofer system. So Bob Stadther back here built a 1,800 watts, I think. I don't remember how many watts. They're 800 or 1,000 watt amplifiers, and he built 6 of them but one for each of the woofers. Then Chris came and figured out the appropriate drivers for these, and we got rid of all the old drivers, put new drivers in. It's spectacular. It's really good. But to Cory's question, why didn't it have slam? Well, Cory, if you showed up today, I guarantee you'd be much happier with the bass system here, but perhaps not for the reason you think. If we look at a subwoofer or listen to a subwoofer alone, what does it sound like? It's especially, and these go up fairly high. Most subwoofers only go to 30, 40 hertz. These go up to 100. So it's going to sound muffled and thuddy because the impact when you hit a big bass drum, boom! When you do that, the whack that he's referring to, that comes from the wings. That comes from the mid-range in a three-way system, not from the woofer. So that upper whack does not come from woofers, it comes from the wings in the case of the IRSV, or the mid-range in the case of, say, a three-way speaker. So that's a whole different subject that we can talk about. And we're going to tackle the wings. And because these are now low distortion, just briefly, we're going to raise these up in frequency and make sure these don't go down so low, because these EMIMs are trying to go lower than they really were ever designed for. It's a whole nother story. Anyway, I hope that answered Cory's question. Thanks for asking, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay.